This morning on TSN 1200 Ottawa Radio, John Rodenberg and Steve Lloyd had a great analogy talking about DJ Smith, saying, and I quote, "He's like the parent that always threatens to turn the car around when the kids are acting up, and he never does. And the kids know."
We've been there, hey? Everyone's been there.
We don't make me. Yeah, I understand. Frankie, we've seen the Oilers, the Wild, and now the St. Louis Blues shake things up behind the bench. Is it time for this Sens team to get a new voice behind the bench?
They have a new voice now in Jacques Martin, and although he might not be
behind the bench.
I get it. He's not behind the bench, but he's in the meetings, he's in the dressing room, he's watching the game. So now he's getting his finger on the pulse as far as what ails the team, whether it's defensively, offensively, what their tactics are missing. So for him, he's going to have individual conversations with coaches, with players on the team. Now, he can relay certain messages that he is seeing. So that should count for something. That should be a different voice in the room, although it's not DJ behind the bench. I'll tell you what, you get into a game situation, sometimes the voice behind you, you don't hear it as much as people think because you're so focused on the game and what's going on the ice. Like, it really is a heat of the moment thing. A lot of the preparation happens before the game, in the meetings, in the pre-scout. So they have that new voice in that situation. So that should be the new voice that you're talking about.
Whether or not they add a new coach, this team is now 11 points out of 8th spot in the Eastern Conference, and they just started a crucial stretch of 11 of 14 games they're going to be on the road. So it's not early anymore. Are their playoff chances already pooched before Christmas?
Yes, and it hurts me to say that because coming into the regular season, I was on the fence about them saying they're either 2 points in or 2 points out of a playoff spot.
I'm glad you brought that up so I didn't have to.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go through my old predictions, but you looked at the Ottawa Senators on paper, and you're like, explosive offensively. They have a full year of Jacob Chychrun. They've made moves to shore up their goaltending position. Everything should come together. It hasn't happened, and they haven't had that hot stretch of the season where you're like, this team is on fire and everything is going their way. So with that being said, there's not enough of a sample size to say that, yeah, they can go on a big road swing or they can go on a really hot stretch where they just eat up a ton of wins and start climbing the standings. And there's good teams in front of them that aren't in playoff spots right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins are underachieving as well. There's another team they're going to have to get through. So it seems very unlikely that the Ottawa Senators are getting to the playoffs this year.
You know who else is cold right now? Brady Tkachuk. He had been a bright spot for them, 13 goals through the first 20 games of the season, but since then, he's gone quiet as well on a season-worst 4-game pointless drought. What's the biggest issue facing this group as a whole right now?
There's a few different things. The biggest one for me is, and a lot of people talk about structure, okay? But the structure doesn't matter if the individual players keep making critical mistakes. Yeah. And that's what's happening with this team. There's too many one-off mistakes where you look at it the next day in a meeting and say, well, that's not the structure. That's just a guy losing a battle, or that's just a guy just not caring about his assignment. So once those individual mistakes get to a more mature level, then they'll have an opportunity to win games. But yeah, it's young, whatever it is. It's like there's certain players that haven't been brought up here understanding how to manage the game, how to manage the clock, how to manage the score. So if you don't have that, the NHL is a very difficult league to learn that. They need a little bit of that. And you just mentioned Brady Tkachuk, 4 games now. So if he doesn't have it going, I find the Ottawa Senators don't have players lower in the lineup that can still propel them to wins. So you look at teams that are really good around the league right now. Vegas, LA. Vancouver Canucks are a great example of that. Yep. Even if the star players aren't on the board, they're finding ways to win games. The Senators don't have that. Not only do they not have that, even if the star players are playing very well and producing, they'll still find ways to lose those games. It's not a good combination for Ottawa.
And Tkachuk's frustration is clearly settling in. 69 penalty minutes for him. That's the most in the entire NHL. Maybe another sign of the frustrating times in Ottawa. Hey, we'll finally see if someone grabs the wheel and delivers on the threat to turn this car around.